We are finally back for the first time since February 9th, 2025, aka Super Bowl 59, aka when my Philadelphia Eagles defeated the Kansas City Chiefs to win their second Super Bowl in franchise history. Ladies and gentlemen, Brandon's World Moneyline Picks and Best Bets are back as we kick off the 2025 NFL season. As always, we are in cooperation with the one, the only Voltage Live. My social media links are in the description below. Today, folks, I will be breaking down week one of the 2025 NFL season. Before I get there, though, a little bit of a humble brag because yesterday, September 3rd, 2018, was our 7-year anniversary of this podcast, which started on YouTube as a live exclusive video show. It then moved over to my college later that month for Black Squirrel Radio. We would be on there until my graduation in the spring of 2021. And then beginning in the fall of 2021, I launched this show slash podcast as its own independence, and we have kept it going ever since. And we started the Moneyline Picks and Best Bets every single week throughout the NFL season during that time, beginning in 2021. So before we get to my week one picks, what I have done for you is, and I was mostly doing this for myself as well, for curiosity's sakes, for credibility's sakes. I have gone back and in 2021, in 2022, in 2023, and in 2024, I calculated all of my money line picks and all of my best bets. Yes, I do have them in the archive. Now, for some years, like 2021, for example, and 2022, I was ill for a few weeks. If you guys remember, in like 2022, I went through that stretch where basically all of November we did not have a show. I believe 2021, it was all of October. I just didn't have a voice. So some of these numbers are going to be off. They're not exactly 285 games a year for at least 2001 and 2022. But you'll see that I am pretty consistent, at least with my picks. So in the money line in 2021, I went 179 and 103. That's 63%. In 2022, I went 174 and 110. That's 61%. 2023 was the big turnaround. 191 and 94 in the money line. That's 67%. Last year was even better. 198 and 87. That is 69% in the money line. And that's again picking every game of the NFL season, just going off who the winner is going to be. No spread. I challenge myself every year to get at least 65%. Can we get to 70% this year in 2025 and up 2024? Now, for those of you that have been following the podcast for a long time, you guys know that every Thursday on the show, along with our Moneyline picks, I give you 5 picks with the spread. And I call those Brandon's Best Bets. Triple B, BBB, Brandon's Best Bets. In 2021, I went 48 out of 84 with one push. That was 56%. In 2022, it was 52 of 103 with a push. That's 50%. In 2023, we went 66 out of 100 with one push. That's 65%. So I was good on betting in 2023. 2024, a little bit down, 61 of 102, but that is still 60%. I would like to get more up into that 65% range, obviously, in 2023. My goal every week is to hit 3 out of 5 to have a winning week, so 60% of the season. With that in mind, let's get to my week one money line picks and best bets. Now, originally, the first game of the year, Cowboys Eagles, the spread was 6.5. Then it went up to 7. And then after the Michael Parsons trade, it has ballooned all the way to my Philadelphia Eagles with an 8.5 point advantage on the spread at home. You guys know, based on my 2025 NFL predictions, how I feel about both these teams this year. The Cowboys Eagles rivalry does not feel as intensive as it was a few years ago. The Cowboys are going to be down in the dumps. Their defense, led by new defensive coordinator Matt Eberflus, is not going to be a very good defense. They're not going to be able to get after the passer. You have new Eagles offensive coordinator Kevin Paluto taking over for Kellen Moore. I don't suspect a lot of things different. I know the Eagles are not going to be out on the field when we do the raising of the banner and the Lombardi Trophy presentation. Obviously Nick Sirianni is trying to say that, hey, this is a new team, new year. We got to do it all over again. I do like the attitude my team is taking. Do I think it could be a slow start? Yes. Listen, I think the Cowboys have been, chirped on and chirped down all season long. All off season long, I should say. I do think that it could be a first half fight. Last year, my Eagles obviously blew them out in both games, the game in Dallas and the game in week 17, when actually Kenny Pickett started for an injured Jalen Hurts at that time. Believe it or not, Dak Prescott and Jalen Hurts have only played each other two times. One time, that was in the 2021 NFL season. And actually, I don't even think that's true because I think the Eagles rested their guys the last week of the season there in that week 18. That was, of course, the first week 18 game. And yeah, we actually ended up doing that. Gardner Minshew started that game because, of course, the next week, Philadelphia went to Tampa in that playoff game. So for me, my Eagles are going to win this game. 8.5. I hope we cover that. It just feels like week one for these two teams, for this divisional rivalry. It's a little bit too steep. I think we're going to win by a touchdown. The Cowboys could backdoor cover this, is what I'm thinking. If it was, 6.5, 7, I want Philadelphia. 8.5 to me is just a little bit too much. I'm going to stay away from that on the betting side. Next up, this is my first bet of the 2025 NFL season, and it's with the same team that I made my first bet on in the 2024 NFL season, which is the Kansas City Chiefs. I like the Chiefs in Brazil against the Chargers. I know the Chargers are 3-point dogs. Andy Reid, we know, is really good in week one. And we've heard all the reports about the Chiefs with Xavier Worthy. They want to bring back the White Show. I think this will be Travis Kelce's swan song year. Obviously, we know we're going to have a royal wedding in the United States now next summer. I think the Chiefs, listen, I said it all offseason. A lot of people think they're going to regress. I don't think so. I think they're going to win the AFC West again. And Joe Alt, who did play left tackle in college, moves back over to left tackle now after Rashawn Slater goes down. So Joe Alt now is going to be their left tackle for the season. The Chiefs obviously have a very good defensive line led by Chris Jones. I'm excited to see what their first round pick Josh Simmons does for their offensive line protection. Again, Andy Reid is really good in week one, right? You give Andy Reid time to scheme things up, figure things out. He's going to come up with some new tricks. I don't see the Chiefs losing. I do think this is a very close competitive game. I think the Chargers are going to try to run the football, get physical with the Chiefs, take time off the clock. They're going to want to make a statement after where the Texans playoff game ended. But I like the Chiefs here. I like them to cover 3 points. Again, I think it could be the Chargers +3. And, this could be a push here. But I think the Chiefs end up winning it. Now, a lot of people like the Browns +5.5 against the Bengals because the Bengals historically struggle against the Browns and they historically get off to week one bad starts. It's like a match made in heaven. The Bengals played their preseason starters this year for a reason because they know they have to get up to a fast start. They know that losing to the Patriots last year in week one, in reality, was the reason why they did not make the postseason. I think they're out to make a statement. And I don't know what the Browns are set out to do. There was another report the other day that Deshaun Watson could be ready to go by October, which I can't believe that's even happening. I don't love the fact that Joe Flacco is starting week one. I know I'm in Cleveland and I know I'm the minority. I don't think Joe Flacco gives the Browns any advantage whatsoever. I think Myles Garrett is going to be looking in his bank account, seeing that he gets his one sack in garbage time, but he signed a $40 million deal and he ends up smiling. I think the Bengals going to Cleveland. I think they know the pressure that's on them. I think this could be a rout in favor of Cincinnati. I like the Bengals. Now, again, could I be wrong and the Bengals disappoint me and the Browns win this game? Yes. So I'm not going to bet it. I think there's other better bets on the board, but I think Cincinnati comes out. I think they win this game against the Browns. Now, Aaron Rodgers was a Jet last year. Justin Fields was a Steeler last year. They have switched teams. And in my opinion, in order for Pittsburgh to go 9-8, they have to win this game. So I'm picking them to win this game. Honestly, I don't feel great about it. I could see the Jets winning this game, be motivated by it. Now, again, how much stock in preseason do we take? I don't know, but I do know this: Justin Fields did not look good in the preseason. Now, Aaron Rodgers, we have not seen. I'm actually very interested to see the matchup of DK Metcalf versus Sauce Gardner in the debut of Aaron Glenn and that physical press man coverage he's going to bring to the New York Jets that he had with the Detroit Lions. I just don't know if the Jets are going to be able to move the ball enough down the field against that Steeler defense. And it's going to be a good test for Metaboo, the right tackle they drafted out of Missouri. He's going to be going up against TJ Watt all day long. I think Justin Fields is going to be running for his life in this game. Now, I think this could be a very defensive game. I'm talking like 13-10, 16-13, a lot of field goals scored. I think obviously Aaron Rodgers is going to be motivated to show Aaron Glenn and the new regime in New York, hey, you could have kept me. This is what you could have had. I think we're going to see a lot of running the football with Jalen Warren and the two tight end sets led by Arthur Smith. Aaron Rodgers is going to get the ball out quickly. Again, I think the Steelers are the better coach team. I think this is a low scoring game. I think that their defensive line overwhelms the Jets' offensive line, and that's why they win this game. But I could very well see the Jets covering the 2.5. Next game, we have the Raiders at the Patriots. So New England's at home. I'm going to take them at home. They're favored by 2.5. You guys know I do think the Raiders are a playoff team this year. I do think the New England Patriots just missed out on the playoffs. But this is a very fascinating matchup to me in week one because these, in my opinion, are the two most improved teams in the AFC. You have the upgrade of going from Antonio Pierce and Garner Minshew as Aiden O'Connell to Geno Smith and Pete Carroll, led by Chip Kelly at offensive coordinator, and Gerard Mayo and Freddie Kitchens, or excuse me, Jordan Mayo and Alex Van Pelt to Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniel, who was the coach offensive coordinator. I think Drake May is better than Geno Smith. Again, you guys know my general rule when it comes to picking games. I'm going to take the better quarterback. I think Travion Henderson and Ashton Genty, both of these backs are going to be special. They both have a chance to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. I think New England, as of right now, has the better offensive line. Do I think Chip Kelly could come out and pull some tricks? This is his first game back in the NFL since he was the head coach of the San Francisco 49ers almost 9 years ago. I do. This is going to be a tough, physical, low scoring game, I believe. I think the Patriots with a defensive head coach, Raiders a defensive head coach, but I think New England has the better infrastructure in place. The only thing you worry about from the Patriots' perspective is Max Crosby the best player on the field on Sunday? Then we have the Dolphins at the Colts. And while I believe the Dolphins may be a disaster this year, and the Colts, I don't know what they're doing at quarterback. I think the Dolphins are the better roster, the better talent indoors to go out there and win week one. I'm not touching this game. This is a game where the Colts are favored by 1.5. Maybe they're favored for a reason. I could very well see Indianapolis beating Miami. but the old secondary outside of Kenny Moore is not very good. Now we know Tyreek Hill does not want to be there. Jalen Waddle has really struggled the last 2 seasons. But again, those two receivers indoors with Tua Tagovailoa and that eye flying offense. I think the Dolphins come out. They always play well early on week one, right? They always have new tricks up their sleeve. I think both these teams are going to have a bad season. Potentially, the Colts could have a better year. They're in a weaker division. Daniel Jones led the Giants to the playoffs in 2022 in a very similar situation with the Colts, where it's a weaker division, right? Good defense, good offensive line, not that great of wide receivers, very smart offensive coach, Brian Dable, Shane Steichen. So, I don't know. This is a game for me. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on it. Give me Miami. In Travis Hunter's debut, I don't know why Jacksonville was favored by 3.5. To me, that feels a little bit disrespectful of the Panthers. I'm not gonna bet it because I think it'd be a stupid bet to bet on these two teams, which I don't think either of these teams have playoff aspirations. But I do like Carolina here. I would take their side of 3.5, and I think Carolina has a chance to pull off the upset. You guys know I was very impressed by Bryce Young and the way he played at the end of last year, and now they add Ed McMillan, the wide receiver out of Arizona, to that receiving crew to go along with Xavier Leggett, two very tall wide receivers. I am interested to see what Liam Cohen drums up for Trevor Lawrence. Obviously, Liam Cohen was very instrumental in what Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did a year ago. Uh, and I do think that, for the Jags, obviously I've said it, this is making or break a year for Trevor Lawrence. They do have Brian Thomas on the outside. Travis Etienne is still there. I'm just not sure the impact Travis Hunter is going to have week one. I'm very interested to see the snaps that he gets. I feel like I know more about what I'm going to get from Carolina going in. You also have Chuba Hubbard running the football. You do have Derek Brown on that defensive line, who's probably the best player on either defense. I would take him over Josh Hines Allen in Jacksonville. So I like Carolina here. Obviously the two former Tampa Bay Buccaneer offensive coordinators, William Cohen, Dave Canales, now head coaches in Carolina and Jacksonville. But I like Carolina here to pull off the upset. Then there's not much to say in regards to the Cardinals and the Saints. In my opinion, because Arizona's gonna win this game. I have Arizona covering the 6.5. You guys know that I think the Cardinals, or you guys know that I think the Cardinals are one of the most improved teams in the league this year. Um, I love what they did in the draft with the likes of getting Walter Nolan, the first round pick out of Ole Miss. Then they turn around in the second round. They end up getting Will Johnson, the corner out of Michigan, who I think if it wasn't for an injury, he would have been the top corner selected in the draft. So in my opinion, to go along with that, you have Marvin Harrison Jr., who I think is going to have a tremendous second year going on with Kyler Murray. Trey McBride now is the highest paid tight end in the league. And for the New Orleans Saints, I don't know who they have, right? Alvin Kamara's there, Chris Olave's there, whoop-de-doo, Spencer Rattler is starting. I think Jonathan Gannon, the defensive mind, is another interesting schedule because both former Eagles coordinators in Jonathan Gannon and Ellen Moore. Obviously, Jonathan Gannon, the DC there in Philly, Ellen Moore, the former OC there in Philly. They did not work together at the same time, but they both were in Philadelphia. I think Jonathan Gannon's defense undresses the Saints. This would be the most shocking upset of the week to me, and I don't see it. I like Arizona minus 6.5. Then we get Bucks at the Falcons. Now, Atlanta is an underdog by 1.5 here. That kind of shocks me, considering the fact that Atlanta did beat Tampa Bay both times last year. But it tells you that many people think, like myself, the Bucks are clearly the best team in the NFC South. We don't know about Michael Penix, but I think this is a game where Atlanta does have Tampa Bay's number. I like Atlanta in an upset here. A lot of people like Michael Penix this year. He's now in his second season with Zach Robinson, first full year as a starter. You have Bijan Robinson there, who is going to be used properly. You have Drake London. I think there's going to be a shootout against Tampa Bay, another first year offensive coordinator here for Baker Mayfield. Chris Godwin's not going to be in there. So we'll see if Emeka Ibuka can step up as a number two breakout wide receiver right away. I think this will be a very much a Mike Evans dependent game. I think it'll be a shootout, and I think that James Pierce and Smith, the edge rusher from Georgia that they got off the edge. I think those two guys are all going to make an impact. We know what Jeff Ulbrich did as the Jets defensive coordinator in those years under Robert Saleh. He is now there in Atlanta. I think the Falcons make a statement week one, and I think that they upset their division rivals at home. Now, Giants Commanders. I am going to be taking the Commanders in this game. I'm only taking the money line. I'm not betting this game because, in my opinion, I do feel like that if there's an upset that could happen this week that would shock everybody outside of New Orleans, which Arizona, you already heard me, I'm taking them 6.5. I forgot to mention Arizona is my survivor pick this week. But I think there's an upset to happen here. It's in the NFC East, and it's going to be the Giants over the Commanders. Again, I don't have the cojones to do it. I'm not going to do it, but you will get this matchup on paper. Terry McLaurin has not been there all training camp, mostly due to the contract dispute, and the New York Giants adding Abdul Carter to the defensive line with Brian Burns, with Dexter Lawrence, with Kayvon Thibodeau. We don't know how good the Giants are going to be this year, but on paper, they may have the best defensive line in all of football. Russell Wilson is there now under Brian Dable. The Giants are hoping to get steady play out of the quarterback position. And Malik Neighbors, to me, he's going to be going up against Marshawn Lattimore, who now in a year with the Commanders, he is their number one corner. But Malik Neighbors put up almost ungodly numbers last year with the likes of DeVito playing quarterback for the Giants. So I think he can have a really good game here. And the Giants, they always play the Commanders tough. Games against the Giants and Commanders, they always come down to the wire. So I love the Giants actually plus 6.5. Now, again, I'm kind of scared to bet it because it'll make me look like an idiot if Jaden Daniel just comes out and resurrects year two. And here we go. And they stop the Giants. I think there's better numbers on the board, but I think if there's one underdog bet I like this week, it's the Giants, believe it or not, just for week one, because they don't know they're bad yet, plus 6.5. This is probably my favorite bet of the week. I like Denver minus 7.5 against Cam Warren and the Tennessee Titans. Remember last year, week one, how bad Caleb Williams struggled against the Titans, and we all thought the Bears were going to be way better than the Titans. Obviously, that was not the case, but that was the sentiment coming into the year. We remember the first start of Jaden Daniels against the Buccaneers, where, all Todd Bowles did was blitz him, and Jaden really struggled in that first game for Tampa, or excuse me, for Washington against Tampa Bay. I think the same thing is going to happen here. I have a bright future for Cam Warren. I think he could make some noise this year in the AFC South. He's probably one of the least most talked about number one picks, especially for quarterbacks in recent NFL history. But I think Vance Joseph and that Broncos defense, it's going to be a long day. Also, remember Bo Nix at Seattle, his first start, he can barely complete a pass. So Sean Payton knows what a rookie quarterback in his first start is feeling out what he's going to do. Do not feel deterred by Tennessee getting blown out in this game. Do not call Cam Ward a bust. Again, he's going to get better as the season goes on. But I think Denver, with that defense, with those weapons, I think Cam Ward is in for a long day in Mile High at 4:05 on CBS. Then we have the Texans at the Rams. Now, this is a weird one. I don't want to touch this one. I'm going to take the Rams at home because I think the Brandon Fisk, Jared Verse, that defensive line can get after CJ Stroud, who we're still going to have to see that Texans offensive line because it is a work in progress after Laramie Tunsil is now a member of the Washington Commanders. But Matthew Stafford has barely thrown a ball all preseason. And that does worry me with Will Anderson, Daniil Hunter, and that Texans defensive line coming off the edge. You're going to have Derek Stingley on Puka Nacua. I would imagine most of the game is one of those weird games, a weird matchup where these two teams do not play that often. They're very similar teams with a very good quarterback, good pass rushers, good defense. Start who at wide receiver Devontae Adams may make the difference for the Rams in this game as opposed to Puka Nacua being on the number two corner for the first time in a while for Devontae, which is why I do think he is a good fit for the Rams offense. Again, I think their defense just gets after CJ Stroud a little bit too much. I do like the Rams. The number is about right at 3 points. I'm going to stay away. Then, this is one of my other upsets in the division. I like Seattle plus 2.5. You guys know I'm not the biggest fan of the Seahawks this year. I don't think Sam Darnold is going to have a great year in that offense under new OC Quinn Kubiak going from Minnesota to Seattle, dome to outside, having Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, all these players to Jackson Smith and Jigba, who still needs to prove himself as a number one wide receiver, and Cooper Kupp, who has dealt with injuries the past few years when he was on the Rams. But I kept talking about it. Everybody is so high on San Francisco this year because of the cupcake schedule. They don't play any tough quarterbacks besides Matthew Stafford and CJ Stroud. And I don't know. Something just feels off about this Niners team. Yes, they brought back Robert Saleh to coordinate the defense, but outside Nick Bosa, they don't have the household names they used to. It's a lot of young guys. Brandon Ayuk is going to be out for a long time, so can the likes of Ricky Pearsall step up at the wide receiver position? Consider the fact that Debo Samuel's not there anymore. I believe Jennings is still looking for a contract, so there's just a lot of unknowns for me for the Niners. I actually think Seattle comes out, new quarterback, new system. Nobody knows what to expect. Kenneth Walker is healthy, at least to start the season. Tough place to play week one going into Seattle for Brock Purdy and crew, even though they have won there before. I think week one sort of levels the playing field. Again, there's upsets that happen in week one. This is going to be one of them. Now, ever since the schedule came out, I called this game. I said the Packers are going to win this game. The Micah Parsons influence really only raised this line by a point, which makes sense because defensive players don't really affect lines the way quarterbacks do. I like the Packers. I like them to cover 2.5. They're part of my best bets. I think Green Bay is motivated this year. I think they should be one of the Super Bowl favorites. I have them winning the Super Bowl this year. Excuse me, I should say I have them losing the Super Bowl against the Buffalo Bills. My partner Josh Unger over at Championship Rings has them winning the Super Bowl over the Baltimore Ravens. I have the Packers in the Super Bowl. What I meant to say, I had them in the Super Bowl prior to the Micah Parsons trade. I had Jordan Love as the regular season MVP prior to the Micah Parsons trade. The Packers won 11 games last year with no number one wide receiver, and Jordan Love injured most of the year, and Malik Willis having to start 2 games. I think the addition of Matthew Golden will be huge on the offense side of the ball, along with obviously Micah on defense. And we know the Lions, right? No more Ben Johnson, no more Aaron Glenn, 2 new coordinators. We'll see how Jared Goff and that offense looks. I don't think it's going to be pretty. And I think this is a hard ask week one to go into that stadium in Lambeau where the Lions destroyed the Packers last year. The Packers remember that. They have revenge on their mind. Now, Ravens at Bills, the rematch of the divisional round. Buffalo was favored by 1.5, and I like the Bills, man. I already mentioned to you they are my Super Bowl pick this year. I don't think there's anybody stopping them but themselves, not even the Chiefs. I've said it all offseason. If not this year, then when is it going to be for Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills? I know the Ravens want revenge for the Mark Andrews drop, and that's a huge storyline going into it. But overall, I think the Bills are actually the better team. I think Joey Bosa will make an imprint on the defensive line the way Von Miller did not the past few years for the Bills. I think that's the difference. I think the Bills are going to know how to tackle Derrick Henry. And as good as these two running backs are with Derrick Henry and James Cook and the playmakers they have, I think Josh Allen makes one more play than Lamar Jackson. And the Bills last season in Highmark Stadium, they kick it off in prime time with a win. And then I am going to take Caleb Williams and the Bears. They are dogs by 1.5. Now, again, I'm not going to bet that game. My 5 bets are already in there. I consider this game, but I want to see Caleb Williams play first. I'm giving him optimism. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt under Ben Johnson's system. I think the Bears are going to be fired up to have a prime time game week 1, Monday Night Football at home against their division rival Minnesota Vikings. And we talked about it. Again, J.J. McCarthy, right? His first ever start in the NFL. We saw how Bo Nix's first ever start went. We saw how Caleb Williams' first ever start went. We saw how Jaden Daniels' first ever start went. So I'm not going to write off J.J. McCarthy week 1, even though this is year 2 in the Kevin O'Connell system. Bears have a new defensive coordinator in Dennis Allen, who is a very attacking defensive coordinator. He's a very successful defensive coordinator, though not a very good head coach. I think Ben Johnson's fingerprints are all over the Bears early. They're going to use the running game with DeAndre Swift, play action passes. I expect Colston Loveland, Cole Kmet, DJ Moore, Luther Burden, even Roma Dunze, all of these guys to really get a big slice of the pie. And I like the Bears here in a close one. I'm going to say like 24-20, but I do think they'll take the 1.5. I think that they will win on Monday Night Football. So to recap, in the money line, I have Eagles over Cowboys, Chiefs over Chargers, Bengals over Browns, Steelers over Jets, Patriots over Raiders, Dolphins over Colts, Carolina over Jacksonville, Arizona over New Orleans, Atlanta over Tampa, Washington over the Giants, Denver over Tennessee, the Rams over the Texans, the Seahawks over the Niners, the Packers over the Lions, the Bills over the Ravens, and the Bears over the Vikings. Now, my 5 best bets for week 1 of the 2025 NFL season are: I like the Chiefs on the road in Brazil, neutral site game, favored by 3 against the Chargers. I like Arizona on the road to cover the 6.5 against the Saints. At home, then, I like Denver to cover 7.5 against Tennessee. I like Green Bay to cover 2.5 against Detroit. And I like Buffalo Sunday night to cover 1.5 against Baltimore. Yes, I know there's a lot of upsets typically in week 1. Yes, I know I am taking 5 favorites. But you guys know, I know a lot of people love to bet the dog. Generally, I like to bet favorites, and I like to bet the best quarterback. So that will conclude my thoughts on week 1 of the 2025 NFL season. We will recap everything on Tuesday on Brandon's World. Enjoy week 1 of the NFL, and peace. Like that clip from the Brandon's World podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brandon's World podcast right here on YouTube.